Hey everybody, it's your man Jane, Mystical and Treasures, back again with some more video action for you. It's another clipped bit from a live stream. In fact, this is going to be a little something special because it's going to be done in two parts, and this is the first part I'll be giving you here. I'm sure we all heard about some of the new plans that Marvel and DC have on how to market their books to readers. I'm going to share that with you here in a second, but this is just showing you just how out of touch they are with everything that's going on in not just the industry but in the world in general. So I saw this little thing right here, and I'm going to share it with you, and just you tell me what you think. And here we are, Marvel's new was it blind bag uh, idea, where basically what it is they you see here a list of all these variant covers. What they do is they've taken the old chestnut of bagging books like they used to in the 90s. Remember those days, guys? And what they're doing is they're going to now do the same thing, but the bags are not be able to be see through like the way they were back in our day, back in the 90s. No, they're going to seal up, and you can't see what's in there, so you don't know what cover you're getting, and that way they can try to get you to pick up multiple books trying to get a rare variant cover that you don't even know if any exist, because you won't know until you open up the bag. This is the state of the industry. This is what they're doing now. They've given up on trying to give us stories and great, works of entertainment, and now it's just all how can we soak the speculators? And it's only a matter of time before they've burned them so badly that it's going to go away. But this is nothing new. And that's where I get into my little bit here that we have for you here. The first part of it, it's something from a live stream from a couple years ago, and I was talking about Marvel president Dan Buckley and how he seems to be so out of touch with what's going on in the comic book industry. And this right here we're seeing right now shows that in those the time since this, they've learned nothing. And you're going to see just how bad off we are. What the leadership in comics is really no leadership at all, and we would just be much better off if they just all went away, and we just put new people in there who actually had some idea what they're doing. But you watch this. This is part one of this. It's going to be a two-part series here because there was so much stuff in these couple of interviews I found with Dan Buckley, and it just was really, really spotlighting to me just how bad off comics truly are. So I hope you'll check this out and enjoy it. And I will be back soon with some more stuff. And until next time, take care.
But like I said, while we're seeing the truths coming out now, that they can no longer be hidden, there are still those who want to still try to gaslight as much as they can. And one of those people is Marvel president Dan Buckley. And here he was the keynote speaker at the recent Comics Pro meeting. And I thought I'd go regale you with some of the stuff he said, which, when you think about what he says, it shows you just how out of touch he is with what's actually happening. He goes, "Thank you for having me, and a special thank you to Jen Haynes. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and we really appreciate what you're doing here for the industry. I'm here today to remind you of how essential retailers are to us, to the community of comic fans, and the future of our industry." Now, take note of that sentence right there, because you're going to see some stuff coming up that's going to put that to the test. A little over a year ago, we realized that we were unsure of where we actually were from an industry and company perspective. Yes, we know our own sales numbers, but we needed context to actually set a meaningful course forward. Working with the team here at Comics Pro and others, we've been committed to finding better ways for all of us to continue improving and standardizing access to that data again. He's talking about how we no longer see the numbers anymore. Between the breakup, where people left Diamond and they're no longer being the dominant one, and then of course companies now hiding those numbers so that nobody knows what they are, which just instills you with such confidence. They must be so good that they can't show them. These are ongoing conversations. It will take some time, but I'm confident that as we grow, we will be able, as a group, we will be able to pull together the data we need in the short and long term to help make the right impact for everyone in this room. Basically saying, yeah, we're going to try to see if we can figure out a way to know what the numbers are, but we're going to we got to talk about it and work it out, because we don't want to be out there where people can actually figure out what's actually happening. We'll be able to spin them. That's all he means. Product, at least to me, is the one that is in all caps and in bold. If the core product does not deliver, then pricing, placement, and promotion have little effect on the long-term success of any offering. Oh, so what that's basically saying is quality. That's basically what that said. He's saying quality of the content matters. If we don't have quality content, nothing else really matters because no one's going to care. Gee, that seems kind of funny when I think about what we've said for the last several years to them is stop putting out this shitty content, put out content that we actually want to read, put out content that we actually want to buy. You know, it's funny how as I read through this stuff, I can keep hearing all the things I and others have said for years and years and years. You know, where was Dan Buckley the last decade? Did he have his head up his ass sniffing his own farts? Because that's the only thing I can think. So we're going to start with core product, comics. We are very proud of how our editorial and creative teams performed during the pandemic, but we knew we needed to get everyone back together. The recent reestablishment of face-to-face conversations and editorial retreats has reinvigorated a collaborative environment that has always defined Marvel. The retreats by themselves have elevated Civil War, World War Hulk, Death of Captain America, Miles Morales, the Spider-Verse, Superior Spider-Man, and the Krakoa Age of X, to name a few. How many of these are horrible storylines? The Death of Captain America, nobody liked that. Superior Spider-Man, nobody liked that. The Krakoa Age of X-Men, it just ended. People are saying how horrible it was. Again, this is how out of touch he is with what's actually going on. One of the key mantras of these meetings is making sure that we ask each creative team why this story matters and what could be the outcome of this story that leads to the next organically exciting story. Oh, I don't know. Why don't you ask Robert Kirkman about how you ended the Age of Krakoa on him? Because I certainly don't think that's the way he wanted things to end. You know, I love that they're trying to play up this thing that like, well, we just got to make some real, got to talk to you so we can have really good content and create. You're not creating good content. That's the point. The people you're talking to don't know how to make good content. That's the point. Basically, the discipline here is to make sure that the creative is taking the lead and that marketing and sales are enhancing the results. That's why those aforementioned projects were so successful. Retailers and readers know when something is creatively driven. Yes, they do. That's why retailers are complaining about all the damn variant covers and retailer incentive, exclusive stuff that's, forcing them to pick up books that they don't want to buy because they know they can't sell them. But is Marvel stopping with any of that? No. Readers are telling them how bad the works are. Are they listening to those people? No. Yes, retailers and readers know when something is creatively driven. And we know that for the last several years, Marvel and DC and pretty much most of the mainstream has not been creatively driven. And what did they say when we told them this? Shut up, bigots. Now on to the next point, price. We know that pricing is an area where we need to adjust to fit your needs. We want to make it consistent for you and for your customers. The bulk of the line will be $3.99 with new number ones and 8 to 10 core titles with top talent and characters being priced at $4.99. There will be exceptions for event books, one-shots, and anniversary books, but you will also see more consistent pricing approach to those offerings. So basically what he's saying is, yeah, we're just going to price it however the hell we want. I mean, that's all that says. Now, if it was me, I'd be like, you know what? We're gonna make every book $2.99, even if it's a number one. Everything, miniseries, event books, one shots, all those gonna be $2.99 per book. We're gonna limit the number of books we do. We're not gonna do more than 20 books in a month. We're gonna cover all our core characters, and then we'll see how things go from there. And if we can get good sales on this stuff, then we'll think about expanding further. But right now, we're just going to go back to the basics, back to the core, back to the very heart of what this is, and we're going to keep it the way it was, when kids and people read comics in the hundreds of thousands and millions. All the books the same price. No fancy gimmicks, no stupid incentives, no variant nonsense, just good quality comics at an affordable price for both retailer and reader. That's what you would say. He says none of this. $4 a book, except for number ones and one-shots, event books, and anniversary books. So pretty much what they're doing right now. That's what he's saying. It's pretty much what we're doing. What we're doing right now, we're just going to keep doing this. It shows you how seriously they take this. Now on to promotion and placement. These two are inseparable in our industry. Our promotions are focused where the bulk of our comics are placed, the direct market. The marketing and sales teams have reestablished closer ties to the editorial and creative teams to ensure we are pulling the proper PR and digital marketing levers that were, quite frankly, not coordinated as well as they could have been over the past couple of years. Again, hiding behind the pandemic. Oh, it's just the pandemic's fault. That's all. It was just the pandemic that screwed everything up. It's not because we all made a bunch of mistakes that we don't know what we're doing. It's not because we're not focusing on creating quality content and letting our creatives go out there and assault the reader base and call them bigots and tell them we don't want your money, Nazis, and go out there raping our retail buddies with variant covers and exclusive incentives that are causing them to spend money they don't have and putting them out of business. No. It's just a pandemic. That's all. Just a pandemic. We are also all working much more closely with Marvel Studios to drum up excitement for comics relating to major studio events. This coordination is specific to each studio offering and sometimes even leads to surprises like the unplanned recent post on social media from Ryan Reynolds for the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine World War III by Joe Kelly and Adam Kubert. So, again, I've said this many times. Comics, one of the biggest mistakes these people make is trying to compete with other forms of entertainment. Comics cannot compete with movies and television, and they cannot compete with video games. You can't do decompressed storytelling in a comic and make it effective the way you can in, say, a movie where you have a bunch of people sitting around a table talking. Because there you have body language, inflection of tone, facial expressions, things you can use to forward progression in the story, to forward a mood that you can't get from a static image in a comic. And then, of course, they can't compete with video games because video games are much more interactive. You're not watching or reading a story about another character that you're trying to, think about. You are the character in the video game. You are making the character do all the stuff they do in the game. You are making them do. You are in control. You don't have that in a comic. So to say we're going to work with these other outlets, no, don't. That's one of the mistakes that you've been making for years. What you need to do is look at the movies and say, what are they doing? Oh, they're strip mining all this stuff from the past when these comics were great. Maybe we need to make our comics great like that again. That's what you should focus on. That should be the answer here. Not, let's try to work in tandem so we can work together with the movies and we'll try to bombard people with, no, that's not going to work. Because what if the movie bombs? Who's going to want to buy the comic? And again, you can do things in a movie that you can't do in a comic. So it's not going to work anyway. See, they got to stop trying to compete and connect themselves with other forms of entertainment and focus on what makes comics so special. The things that comics does well. The things that comics can do that the other forms can't. That's where your focus should be. And of course, the main focus of all should be on quality product above all else. Because, it doesn't matter what the movies are doing. If you aren't making stuff that people want to read, then they're never going to buy it anyway. It is a priority for Marvel Comics to leverage the power of Marvel Studios to generate awareness, trial, and traffic with the intent to convert those MCU fans into customers for you. Except, when have you ever done that? Again, I'm someone who's worked in comic shops. I remember when the first Spider-Man movie from Sony came out. And I think there was some special, I think it might have been a free comic book day Spider-Man comic that came out that year, right in time for the movie. And I remember that the owner of the store bought like an extra 1,000 copies or some ungodly number like that of that book, and then put it in a bag with a flyer for a sale he was going to have at the store that day, that weekend for free comic book day, and a little coupon on it for his store. And then he took all these books and gave them to the local theater to give out to the people on the first showing of the Spider-Man movie. In the hopes that, they'll get this book, they'll read it, they'll think it's awesome, and then they'll want to come into the shop the next day. That's Friday. Then they'll want to come in the shop on Saturday on free comic book day, and they'll bring their coupons, and we got very few of those coupons back. And that free comic book day was, maybe slightly more traffic than a normal Saturday, but not by some vast amount. And this is us kind of doing what he's talking about here, leveraging the movie to generate awareness and traffic to the comic stores. And it didn't work. You know what happened? People got that free comic, they took it because, it's free, and then they probably threw it away when they got home. Or they, threw it down somewhere and forgot about it. They certainly didn't say, I better get up tomorrow and go into the comic book shop. That didn't happen. Because, see, what guys like Dan Buckley never seem to get is that it's much easier to get somebody to get off their ass to go to a movie theater and watch a movie that they can just sit there and zone out on than have them get off their ass, go to a comic shop, and then spend money and then have to go back home and actually physically hold and read the book in their hands. A lot of people today are lazy as fuck. And they don't want to have to think. They don't want to have to do a lot of work. Just give me my remote, I'll push the button, and then that's it. Instant gratification. And that's not the experience you're going to get at a comic store. So they have no interest in seeing, going to check out the comics. Now, again, I'm not saying everybody. We did give back some of those coupons, but compared to the amount we gave out, not very many. So, again, mistakes of the past continue to be made even in the future now. That's what he's saying. Well, the things we did in the past that didn't work, we're going to do them again. It's always easier to sell people who want to buy right away than to convert a new customer. We're going to work on both, but we need to get people back. Well, that's basically saying it's easier to sell to somebody who's already interested in comics than it is to sell a comic to somebody who has no interest in comics. And yeah, that's true. But he's going to work on having both. How are you going to do that, Dan? How are you going to make people have interest in something they don't have interest in? People will go see a movie even if they're not all that interested in it because there's very little work involved for them, and it's something they'll probably talk about over the water cooler on Monday. And they don't want to be left out, so they'll go see the movie. Who's going into work on Monday saying, hey, man, did you read that latest issue of X-Men? Hey, man, did you read that latest issue of The Punisher? Who's doing that? Unless they work in a comic shop, that is. Nobody. I mean, again, this shows you the ineptitude of the people in charge. Last and most important, we need to have some fun and look to the future. I'm not saying they were going to shut down the telling of dystopian future stories. They sell. But we at Marvel need to embrace and convey the fun of working with the super talented creators and beloved characters. Except your creators that you have now, unless, they're in their late 50s to 70s, aren't talented. Who's the new talents who are really, really great? Who? Point me out 5 people in the last 10 years who have blown up like, wow, this guy was awesome. Name me 5 people. Who? Daniel Warren Johnson? Okay, maybe him. Who else? So you can't. There aren't there. The talent isn't there. And that's part of the problem the industry is having as a whole now is the talent isn't there because they've left. They've gone on to advertising or, working in video games or, writing copy for somewhere. That's where they've went to. Sometimes because they were driven out. And sometimes because, the shitty page rates and the shitty conditions and the shitty workloads just don't worth it to them. And so they just walk away. And the ones who are truly talented, like, say, a Graham Nolan or an Aaron Lopresti, they're out making their own books now. They don't even want to work in the mainstream. They're making their own stuff where they get 100% of the money, all the rewards, and they get to keep the IPs. So if there ever is a movie for, say, Wraith of God or Ghost of Matacumba Key, guess who gets the money? Yeah, that's right, the creator. And they know they're never going to get that working for Marvel or DC or any of the other major publishers. We need to convey the fun that Stan and so many other creators and editors in this industry since have projected because it is infectious. But you guys don't have that. This is partly what made Stan Lee so unique and irreplaceable. Stan Lee, we all know some of the stories about supposed things he said and did that was not kosher. But above all else, the one thing you can say about Stan Lee that is irrefutable, he was an excellent ambassador for comics. He knew how to get you excited for comic books. He knew how to market them, he knew how to promote them, and he knew how to excite you about them and get that enthusiasm. There is nobody in the mainstream industry today who can do what Stan Lee did. Not Dan Buckley, not Jim Lee, not C.B. Cebulski, not anybody. So when you couple that with the loss of the men who understood how to market and promote comics, like I said, your Denny O'Neills, your Archie Goodwins, your Mark Gruenwalds, when you factor in those people aren't there, and you don't have someone like Stan Lee as your cheerleader, how the hell do you ever expect to make it an infectious thing of fun? You don't know. You don't know how to do fun, Dan. You haven't a fucking clue. I have been lucky enough to sit in the room for the creation of Miles Morales, the genesis of Civil War, and the group conversation with Dan Slott telling him that Superior Spider-Man and Spider-Verse are two separate stories, to let them not breathe and to not tell them at the same time. Yes, he was going to have Doc Ock save the multiverse. How fun is that? Actually sounds kind of stupid, actually. Dr. Octopus is a villain. This commitment will present itself in different ways, from the reappearance of bullpen bulletins, Deadpool surprises, and projects like Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime by Jason Aaron. Oh yeah, that's certainly going to be a great read, I'm sure. The fun will attract more readers and help us build an optimistic future. No, it won't. Is there anything in what he just spelled out that has you excited? That has you feeling optimistic for the future? I mean, again, it just shows you how so out of touch he is with the fan base, with the people who care, and that's the thing too, is a lot of the people who may have cared, they don't anymore. They've become apathetic. It's often been said, that these, that the opposite of love is hate. And it's like, no, it's not. Because whether you love something or you hate something, the key in it is you care. You love it because you care about it, and you love it because you want it. Or if you hate it, you care and that's why it annoys you, and it's why you hate it, because you care. No, the opposite of love is apathy. And that's where a lot of the audience is now. They just don't care anymore. This is why you see, again, all the failure last year the movies and the TV shows. This is why you're seeing, again, they got to tell the truth now about those numbers and the sales, because they aren't coming back. People have walked away after years and years and years of being ridiculed online by creators who thought they were better than them, who thought they were, they thought that they were on the right side of history. My feminazi politics matter more than anything else. These people drove people away and made them no longer care. How do you attract them back? I don't think putting bulletin bullpens and Jason Aaron doing an Uncle Scrooge comic is going to make it happen. We want to recreate that feeling of discovery, your first comic, and get readers genuinely excited for what's hitting the stands each month. We want to reinvigorate the sense of community and belonging that comic shops offer, and the feeling that keeps customers coming back time after time. Except you've done everything to do the opposite of that for the last decade. You've raped your retail partners into bankruptcy. You've driven away your old school audience who did come in every week to the comic shops and were excited for the books. And now that you're in a corner and you've painted yourself there and you see no way out, you want us to come and save you. And it's just not going to happen. We've moved on. And I don't know what more there is to tell, Dan, on that. You're the only people who can really provide that. Yes, the retailers. Because they're the real customers. Remember, guys, we're not the customers we're not the customers for comics. The retailers are. And for that, we thank you. We thank you for being suckers and buying into every one of our schemes and scams to part you from your money and put you into bankruptcy. No matter who you are or where you're from, we are all united by our passion for comic books. From the bustling streets of New York City to a quiet small town spot, your shops serve as a place for fans of all ages to gather and find a community. Your shops are at the center of pop culture, and for many, they're a safe haven and escape from the realities of everyday life. Oh, doesn't that just sound so kumbaya, so beautiful, so heartfelt? Oh, it almost brings a tear to my eye. I mean, maybe it would if I actually thought he believed any of that. But he doesn't. Again, he's mouthing the words, but I can guarantee you he doesn't believe a word of that. Because if he could find a way for them to make money and cut the comic shops out completely, he'd do it in a heartbeat and wouldn't even look back. That's the kind of guy Dan Buckley is. And you can say, well, that's business. Yeah, maybe. And I can respect that. If that's how it is, that's how it is. But to say some blather like this, as if somehow you care so deeply. No, he doesn't care. I care. Some of you out there still care. We care because, we're the people who put our passion and our money into this for decades. We're the reason the industry still even exists at all. We are the true customers of everybody. Retailer, publisher, distributor, creator. We are their customers. But you notice, none of us came into Dan's thoughts here. Except to say when he wants to bring in the word community. Because what didn't you hear in any of that spiel he was giving? Well, we need to show respect to our end users. We need to show respect to the paying customers. The Wednesday warriors. We need to keep those guys happy. We need to listen to them and give them the things that they actually want to see happen. We need to make them happy with the product we produce. He didn't say that. Because it never crossed his mind to think about that.